I, 28M, am caught between my wife, 33F, and mom, 42F, on grandchild access. My wife, 33F, and I, 28M, have been married for 2 years and are expecting our first child in August. My wife and mom, 42F, have always had a polite but somewhat distant relationship since they were introduced. Mom's age is not a typo. She had a very difficult childhood and had me when she was 14. Although I wish they had a warmer relationship, I understand that not all in-laws become close and didn't want to force anything. Especially as we live about 1,000 miles from mom and I am still able to have my own relationship with her. I assumed that the main issue is that my wife and mom are fairly close in age, which made things a bit awkward. My wife had previously just said that they didn't click, or that she felt awkward around my mom. Despite having me so young, my mom has been a wonderful, single parent. I know that my origins are unfortunately the result of abuse from an older person, but that when she was pregnant, a friend's parents took us in, which allowed her to finish high school and then attend college. Once she finished college, she was able to get a good job as a financial analyst and we moved to our own place. And then she was just like any other mom, if a bit younger. Our home was always warm and loving. I provide this as background info to confirm that my mom did engage in any toxic or hurtful behavior. The one issue my mom had was that, because she was focused on trying to figure out how to support and raise me, she did not really deal with the effects of the abuse she suffered. She did not use substances, but did develop a food addiction and became super morbidly obese, close to 500 pounds by the time she was in her mid-30s. I was in college by this time. When I was a kid, she gradually got heavier, but I don't remember that it negatively impacted my childhood. Her addiction was more of a private thing, and she did cook healthy, balanced meals and encouraged me to stay active and play sports. I did not and have never had a weight problem myself. When she hit her high weight, mom realized she needed help and finally got the therapy needed to address her trauma. She lost 200+ pounds over the next couple years and has gradually lost more weight since then, and even took up hiking and walking marathons. Now she is about 225 pounds, which is still obese, but not morbidly so. She is 5 feet 10 inches, which means she is technically about 50 pounds overweight, but her medical and therapy team think she is in a great place from where she has been. My wife is pretty anti-fat because her father was overweight and died of a heart attack when she was 12. And now that my wife is pregnant, she is saying she does not want our child to have any relationship with my mom, unless my mom loses weight down to a BMI of 25 or less. She says that if something happens to my mom because of her weight, it will be too traumatic. Plus, she is worried our child will be exposed to an unhealthy lifestyle. I understand my wife's fears, but I think this is very unfair to my mom. Because A. My mom's medical team doesn't recommend additional weight loss, and especially would not recommend trying to crash diet and lose 50 pounds in 67 months to meet my wife's requirement. And B. My mom does maintain a healthy and active lifestyle, as evidenced by her 275-pound weight loss that she has maintained for some years now. My wife isn't budging, and I don't want to put stress on her and argue with her while she is pregnant. She is having a horrible time with morning sickness. But I know my mom will be heartbroken if she doesn't get to have a relationship with her grandchild. How should I sort this out? TLDR. My pregnant wife doesn't want my mom to have a relationship with our child because my mom is overweight, and my wife is afraid that either my mom will die young and traumatize our child, or that my mom will be a bad influence. I think this is unfair because my mom has already lost over 200 pounds, even if she still remains somewhat overweight, and she does have a healthy and active lifestyle. I would love some advice on how to sort through the priorities here. My pregnant wife doesn't want my mom to have a relationship with our child because my mom is overweight and my wife is afraid that either my mom will die young and traumatize our child or that my mom will be a bad influence. If your mother had a heart condition or diabetes or some other condition that might lead to a younger than average death, would she want to avoid a relationship between grandparent and grandchild? If your wife found out you had a condition that might shorten your life, would you be banished from the child's life in case you died and they were sad? This is ridiculous. She is being incredibly unreasonable. Your mom sounds like a fantastic role model for a child. Frankly, your wife doesn't. Not only is her notion of health very incorrect, it's also potentially damaging to a child. Is she taking in enough calories during this pregnancy? How will she react to the chubby toddler phases? I truly hope she will get therapy. Do not allow her to put this on you or your mother. This is definitely about your wife and she needs to deal with it. Your mom has lost over 50% of her body weight and has gotten both mental and physical treatment for her food addiction and other traumas. And your wife is only concerned about her BMI? Your wife needs to follow your mom's example and see a therapist. And tell her to focus on how much weight your mom has lost instead of the weight she's currently at. That's a significant weight loss and should be celebrated. Be careful. Your wife will give your kids eating disorders. There have been a lot of posts lately about parents going overboard with their kids' diets. Your mom sounds like a great lady. Honestly, I would say you sit her down. Tell her how good your mother is doing, and that her entire medic team say she's doing fine and not supposed to lose more weight. Tell her she is a great person. She is a great influence and she worked so hard for you that it would be a no-go for you to not let her have contact with the kid. Because honestly, if she's willing to die on this hill, there will be a lot issues in the future. Your wife is being an absolute monster and needs to address her own relationship with food or she's going to pass some ed down to your kids. The connection between weight and health is nowhere near as direct as your wife believes. And the BMI was never meant to be a measure of individual health. And she's not your mom's doctor. So she should not presume to know what is healthiest for your mom. As someone who was raised by an anorexic mom, it can really mess you up. Even if my mom never criticized my weight directly, I can't diagnose your wife, because I'm not her doctor. But it may be worth looking into orthorexia. Either way, she should get some heavy-duty therapy to make sure she's capable of being a healthy parent. Your wife is genuinely fat-phobic and needs to see a therapist. She isn't a medical professional and your mom clearly has her health as a main priority. This is extremely concerning. My Mill and I do not have a good relationship, but I'm nice enough for my son. She's a good grandma and I will not rob my son of a good, if not great, grandma. If your mom is gonna be a good grandma, I'd draw the line here. Demand therapy. Your wife is her worst nightmare. Tell her to grow up. There's a lot more traumatic things that can happen to a kid than getting to know their grandparent. In a normal order of the circle of life, all grandparents die. Memories with a loving grandparent are meant to be cherished. I hope you don't let your wife dictate this situation. She has no reasonable justification and she's being controlling and abusive towards you and your future child. I would insist on discussing the issue in front of a therapist. It wasn't your wife's fault that she lost her father young and that it traumatized her. Something horrible happened to her and of course it will leave marks. However, while these things are not her fault, there is the other side, the fact that it is her responsibility to address her struggles with traumas and/or mental illnesses. She can decide to do so or decide not to. But if she decides not to, then, in my opinion, that decision needs to have consequences. Deciding to make yourself and others, your mother now, very likely your child later, suffer is not a trait I would want in a partner or in a mother. I grew up with a mother who had an eating disorder for all her life. She died a bit over a year ago, weighing less than 34 kilo. Thankfully, she always made sure we children were eating fine and made it clear that her way of thinking was an illness. Unfortunately, she decided to never address that illness and thus, she died way too young. Eating disorders in both directions, too much or too little, are devastating, and I fear for your child. If your wife is not willing or able to understand that her relationship with weight is extremely unhealthy and needs to be addressed, then this might cripple your child for life. You don't ever heal from eating disorders. It's very easy to fall back into them or pivot into the other, equally bad direction. So you need to make absolutely sure that your child doesn't get one in the first place. This needs to be figured out before the child is born. Your mom and wife did not click. No. Your judgy wife disliked her from the beginning and decided to be standoffish to her because of her weight. Don't know about you, man, but if anyone spoke that way about my always supportive good mom, we'd be having serious discussions about our future. Your wife needs therapy. Putting your mom aside, imagine what your wife will do with your own child if your wife continues to use weight as her only measuring tool of having a healthy lifestyle. It puts a huge amount of unnecessary pressure for your child to within a certain weight. And imagine the backlash your child receive from your wife if they are above the 25 BMI. Or what your child may feel they need to do to maintain a low BMI. It's good to promote healthy lifestyle, but fixating only on weight and nothing else is diet, exercise, etc. can really bring harm to someone. This is disturbing. Do not do this to you, mom. She sounds like an incredible strong person. I really can't describe how toxic wife's behavior is. You need to take a stand now. Think about how she'd be raising your child with that mentality, that you're not worthy of love and relationships if you're overweight. You need to establish boundaries now before it's too late. Your wife is the problem here. This is 1000% your wife's problem. She needs therapy. What an awful reason to try and alienate your mom. I think your wife still has trauma over her father's death. She should get counseling, therapy for it. It's quite unfair to your mom, who was a good mom who went through a lot but eventually took care of her problems and overcame them. She should be praised instead. Talk to your wife again now or after the birth to help her see things from another POV. Your child will encounter people of all shapes and sizes throughout their life. What will your wife do if your child has an overweight, obese teacher? This is truly a toxic mindset your wife has, and she will need to get over it. Are you sure this is the sole reason she wants to alienate your child from their grandmother? Also, I have a very young grandparent. Had my father at 16. And it is one of the greatest gifts in my life. I have always had a young grandmother to look after me, even travel with me, and we are extremely close. Who is to say when your mom will live or die? She could live to 100 or die tomorrow, just like the rest of us. Your wife is being extremely selfish by taking your child's grandparent away. This is awful of your wife. I'm serious. She is awful. You need to stick up for your mom. Tell your wife to get therapy.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Haircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.